The burnt-out remnants of a riot are still here in Hull.
The Cobra meeting was to coordinate our response to the disorder. Those involved will feel the full force of the law.
To help women passengers travel in convenience and comfort, Indigo has started a new feature that allows female passengers to view seats booked by other female passengers so that they can select a seat accordingly if they are uncomfortable sitting next to a male passenger.
All right.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, boosters and Binfluencer massive type people, how are we doing? What's going on out there? Have you survived? Have you survived the riots this week? The civil unrest, the sounds, the chorus in the background, the soundtrack of 2024 that is angry people shouting a lot of racist slurs, beer cans being crumpled up, wine bottles being thrown over people's heads and smashing on police shields. It's a good old time out there, isn't it? Welcome, welcome. Pull up a bar stool, make yourself comfortable as once again we try to make sense of the senseless here, as far as I'm concerned, here at Ground Zero. Here in Aldershot in Hampshire. Don't know where you guys are. A lot of my people of the Booge cult, a lot of my Patreons, my YouTube community members, sporadically dispersed throughout the United Kingdom and indeed the world. So I hope that you're safe. I hope your town is okay. But mine, I mean, I frequently refer to it as, playfully, as the shittest town in Hampshire. That's how I promote it. That's how I frame it for you guys. I'm like, yeah, this is where I live. This is my deal. Because I don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't want you to think that I'm living some sort of, living the high life off the back of the Patreon and the Google money. But half, it's on brand, right? It's Aldershot. This show is all about, taking people's optimism and hope and just tempering it. Just bringing it back down to earth. Just taking that love that you have for life, that hope, that faith in humankind, and just diluting it with a little bit of dystopia and realism. That's very much the vibe of this show, the USP. And so, if we're all here and it's a sort of London feel, it looks like I'm in a kind of, MDF-adorned hipster cabin or something. If I then divulge to you, if I then reveal that actually I'm residing in the aforementioned shittest town in Hampshire, then, it's on brand. It feels... Anyway, I'm babbling. Yes, I'm very much in ground zero of the riots. As I pre-record this. This is a pre-recorded edition, guys, not live this week. Because I'm taking my kids and my missus away for the weekend. For my sins. They deserve a break. Probably from me, but unfortunately they are going away with me. I deserve a break also. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and you got to say to your missus, yes, I will spend £1,000 on my credit card to take us away in a rented motorhome for 3 days. £1,000. A fucking grand for a motorhome for 3 days. Can you believe that? It's abject insanity is what it is. To my mind, £1,000 is literally car money. Like, that's when you know that you grew up working class, that you grew up on council estates, is when somebody says, we should spend £1,000 to rent a van for 3 days. We should rent one for 3 days. I'm like, £1,000. You should be able to buy a van for that. Do you understand how ridiculous that sounds? to somebody with my upbringing. It makes me angry. We should just put this. It's only £1,000. Are you out of your fucking mind? So yes, anyway, I'm taking the missus and my kids away to give them a break, to give them some semblance of a summer holiday, and to keep my girlfriend happy. And regular or long-term Binfluencer veteran viewers and listeners will know from last year that when I begrudgingly agreed to take the missus away for a holiday, to keep her appeased, to keep her happy, I like to playfully rebrand it, the placation, which amuses me and actually robs my girlfriend of any joy that she might have experienced or felt as a result of me taking her away. But it's, you got to have fun with it. You got to make it fun for you too. So yeah, that's why I'm pre-recording. Anyway, back to Aldershot. Try not to disappear on a tangent too early in the show aid. I'm coming to you, I was about to say live, I'm coming to you pre-recorded from Aldershot, Ground Zero, which was of course identified as one of the target areas on that Enough is Enough Telegram group. I don't know if you guys have seen this in the news this week. I'm not going to bother going through like the news stories of the week and rip and roast and everything. It feels too dark to do. Like all of the news stories this week have been so depressing. It's like, people with Molotov cocktails, people trying to burn refugee hotels down, people getting dragged out of their cars like it's the 1950s in a southern state America. Like it's just dark. And then I come online for a story. Hey, do you want to hear some jokes about it? No, not really, Aid, to be honest. But yeah, so Aldershot appeared on this Telegram chat. Apparently, this evening at time of recording, they're targeting what is known as a sort of immigration application centre, just down in town. I thought earlier, right? I thought I would take my go to pick up my daughter a little bit earlier than I ordinarily would do so. Because I thought I'll just take a little drive down that way, like to where the postcode says that this protest is going to be. I thought I'll just check if there's any cordoning, if there's any police, like, warning people off or something. There's got to be an upside to all of the protest law restrictions. There has to be a silver lining to all of that. All of those news stories where you saw, like, Steve Bray turns up with a megaphone and there's 5 policemen immediately. No, son. Sorry. No. Not permitted under new Section 84 Clause B. Says here, if you gather in anywhere and you express a political opinion, we can stuff you in the back of a black van and your family never see you again. That's the new law. Like, it's not like that, but you understand what I'm getting at, right? There are new protest laws. We all, ironically, protested against them. And we lost. And we were sad about it. Until now, when finally we're like, actually, do you know what? Lads? If ever there was a time to have some sort of restriction on protest, it might be August 2024. I didn't really consider it before. I never would have believed that a race riot would have kicked off in multiple cities, multiple locations throughout the United Kingdom. I didn't see that coming. But now that it has happened, if I'm honest, frankly, I could see an upside to the restrictions on our protest freedoms. So yeah, I was expecting to see some police cordoning tape, or at least a couple of bobbies on the beat, maybe, out of those 10,000 new ones that everybody was banging on about in the election. You should vote Labour because we're going to put 10,000 more bobbies on the beat. You should vote Tory because we're going to put 10,000 bobbies on the beat. Now Labour, it's like, I don't care who does it, but can we can we just have a couple of bobbies on the beat in Aldershot tonight? Can we just borrow some? I'll pay for them. I'll pay £1,000 rental for Bobby's on the Beat for 3 days. I won't even be here. I'll be off in my motorhome. But I would sooner pay for the rental of the policeman than the... Anyway. So I drove down there earlier, expecting to see some police presence, some curbs on their protest rights. But you're not going to believe this, guys. There were none. There was absolutely no sign of any law enforcement whatsoever. There was nothing. And, you know, granted it was early. It was like 10 to 5. But the protest was supposed to start at like 5:45. So it was cutting it fine, lads. I mean, like, any time now would be good. I had to I WhatsApped a friend of mine this week. And she is of South Asian descent. She is from up north, or Midlands. And she's lived her whole life. And she's got 2 mixed race kids now. And her husband is white. And they lived they moved overseas. Now they're back. And me and another friend of ours, like, we checked in on her. We were just like, is everything okay? Like, it's a weird time at the moment, and I'm seeing some really scary stuff on the news. I'm just checking in. Are you safe? I hope that you haven't experienced anything personally. And through various conversations, the 3 of us, I was able to glean that apparently she had sort of had to warn her kids. Like, look, today, mummy might get called a P word, right? And it just, like, breaks my fucking heart. It's like, how have we got here? How have we arrived back here? And I just thought, like, of what it must have been like in the 70s and the 80s, hearing that word, having dog poo, like, thrown against the side of your house, spray painting like go home, P word, and all of that stuff. All of the things that we've now seen documentaries and dramatizations to communicate to us about how hard it was for people back in those days. And I remember hearing some of the slurs, the slang used around my school at the time. But I thought that we had got past that. I haven't heard anyone use any of that racial language for literally decades. And so to now hear that, and that my friend is having to pre-warn her children, like, you might hear that today, but if you do, just ignore it. Let's just keep walking. Like, oh my God, it's heartbreaking, isn't it? How have we got back here? And it made me so angry for all of the times that these, internet provocateurs have arrived at the Newsnight studios, or they've been taken seriously on BBC Breakfast or Question Time, or, you name it. Whatever the current affairs show might be, I'm sure that the people that we're all thinking about when I'm saying this stuff, I'm sure that they've appeared on them, right? But God, it just makes me so fucking angry that again and again and again, through a mixture of chasing ratings and chasing clicks, and in other cases just outright cowardice, that these presenters and producers again and again have just said or relented or begrudgingly accepted and just backed out and go, yeah, do you know who we should get on? We should get Farage on again. Oh, he was so good. Like, isn't there some responsibility that we should be engaging? Like, I mean, we're a public broadcaster. I'm not sure we should be continuing to platform somebody with his documented... No, it's fine. It's fine. We're competing against Dancing on Ice that night. We've got to get the ratings in. So angry about it. All for clicks. All for... And here's the kicker. Is like with something like the BBC, for them it shouldn't even be about ratings. It's like, it's publicly funded. You're not getting money off the back of advertising that you sell as a result of how popular the show is. So you guys have the freedom to actually offer up educational, politically neutral conversation and debate and not have to go chasing clicks and what's shareable on social media. So anyway, yes, I drove down through Aldershot. And do you know what else I saw? So I didn't see any police. I didn't actually see any protesters earlier, although I imagine that was probably because it was just a little bit too early. But do you know what I did see? I saw shuttered up shops from left to right, up and down, throughout the the offshoot streets of the town centre, but all the way back into the town centre also. Every single small business, shutters down, closed. And it kind of got me thinking, it was just like, well, hang on a second, these guys, these rioters, these enough is enough types, they claim that this is all about keeping our kids safe, protecting our daughters, protecting people in our community. It's like, exactly what? Like, explain to me, precisely. Explain to me what protections you are affording people by forcing them to close their businesses early and lose out on money for fear that you guys and all of your friends are going to light a wheelie bin and chuck it through their front window. What protections exactly are you guys affording them, gifting them this Wednesday evening? Just gone. I say just gone. It's tonight for me. For you guys, it's Friday. I mean, hopefully by the time you see this is recorded and this has all gone out, hopefully the news story will be that it was all a bit of a damp squib. That it was all either a load of hot air over nothing, because basically nobody actually turned up to it, because they had read sufficient numbers of news stories, like they'd just hit the benchmark for the right number of news stories, where they'd seen somebody who had just had a couple of Stellas too many, got a little bit too brave, and go, yeah, do you know what? Fuck it! And then just lobbed one at a policeman. They got caught on film, somebody's camera phone, uploaded to Twitter, identified, 4 fucking years in jail. Just enough of those news stories have breached the perimeter that sufficient numbers of enough is enough types come Wednesday night for the coordinated protest come riots. Hopefully, the story will be that they all just went, actually, do you know what? It's not worth 4 years. It's not. My wife doesn't even know that I'm out tonight. I crept out the side door, jumped in the car, drove out silently, went down to go and meet Gary and Dave. She doesn't even know that I'm here. I can't be getting jailed for 4 years. If she finds out I'm even missing for one night, she'll hit the fucking roof, lads. If I'm missing for 4 years. I mean, forget packing a bag for jail. I may as well pack my actual bags, because I will be of no fixed abode after that. Hopefully that will be the story, is that it all turns out to be a damp squib. But it could be, could be that things get really ugly. This is the first time I've ever driven through a town centre where I've lived, where all of the shops are shuttered up and closed down for fear of riots. It's absolutely insane. And if I'm honest, it's making me quite nervous. And I'm a white guy, right? I'm a white guy in an army town. So the chances of things actually truly kicking off in Aldershot, probably quite slim. And the chances, like, if they did kick off, of people attacking me and my family over people of colour, again, even slimmer. And yet I still am sat here worried about what might happen if people get a bit too leery, walk up the hill, start smashing windows, start joyriding and the rest of it. So how must people of colour be feeling in Aldershot and other towns and cities tonight? It's absolutely disgusting. And somebody was talking to me earlier in the week. Sorry, hopefully I won't be talking about this all episode. Somebody was talking to me earlier in the week about, would you support them widening out or broadening the terror legislation, to catch people like this? They would prosecute them under terror legislation. Would you support that aid? Would you support them rolling out facial recognition software? And I think they were trying to sort of catch me. I think they were like, oh, so you would. Oh, so you're pro-authoritarian now. I'm like, no, I'm pro-technology being used for good. This doesn't have to be some sort of like gotcha, muddied water kind of situation. You should be able to be pro facial recognition and pro like that whole piece being governed by an oversight body. Like you could have that software. You could have it used for good. Just like you can have any surveillance or like messaging, reading or metadata collection service like Snowden kind of situation. You could have any of those facilities, services and apparatus as long as they're overseen, as long as there's some sort of oversight there and accountability and what's the word? Visibility, exposure, as long as it's done in the light of day and not in secret courts with secret warrants and people in government agencies who just go, do you know what? I really don't like my ex-girlfriend. Might hack into her iPhone. Like that's what we're worried about. There's no oversight. So yes, I think I would be. That's an interesting question for the chat maybe tonight, if you're with me, live chat. Would you support the rolling out, the widening of government powers to catch people like this? Because a lot of them are organising it on the Telegram chat, right? A lot of them have coordinated this 100 cities of protests / riots. A lot of the messages in those Telegram chats are absolutely horrifying. Like talking of murdering people, should we bring guns, should we bring knives, make sure you tool up lads, all of this sort of stuff is absolutely terrifying, and therefore, because it is there to implement a political ideology, it should be construed as terrorism. And so off the back of that, I think I am comfortable with using any and all tools that you have in your arsenal to identify and jail the people that you suspect of that stuff, right? But do you guys agree with that? Would you support the broadening out of terror legislation to be able to catch people like this? I suppose the devil's advocate question that I should ask myself before I jump to willfully into supporting it is, how would I feel if the shoe was on the other foot, right? Let's say Labour are like one term, right? Let's say Starmer is, I know this is going to seem a stretch. I know this is going to seem, just try to engage, detach your brain from reality, because this really is jumping the shark, right? But let's just imagine for 1 second that Keir Starmer doesn't manage to capture the imagination and charisma and optimism of people beyond 4 years of Parliament. Just imagine people aren't that enthusiastic about Keir Starmer in 3 or 4 years' time, right? If the Conservative Party or the Tories and Reform as some sort of weird nightmare coalition, if they got back in and this terror legislation was still there, empowering the government, and there was people like me and Supertansky and Patsy Stevenson and Sean Adams and all of the other guys, like Josh from the Movement Forward, Carol Vorderman, like all the people who've worked on tactical voting initiatives, how could that impact us then? Like, how comfortable would I feel knowing that the government could effectively gain access to private chat conversations and then use them as justification to jail all of us for attempting to overthrow the government? Like, that is, it feels like a stretch, doesn't it? But equally, I mean, if they had the power to do it, and it was the choice out of them having power or not having power, if they deemed us sufficiently like a threat, maybe they would take advantage of those legal strengths. I don't know. What do you guys think in the live chat? Would you support the broadening out of freedoms for the government of the day to use Telegram servers, Twitter servers to identify troublemakers and jail them under terror legislation, guys? I've got a weird news story for you. tonight, you'll be relieved to hear. Should we lighten it up a little bit? Shall we just lighten it up just a tad, guys? As much as we can. On an episode of Aid Thompson and Other Disappointments. Oh, by the way, I should say hello to a few more of the Patreons. So last week we had Christine Cash on. Christine is an absolute gem, a real diamond. She supports the show and she often pops onto Politics Social. Also, she is a veteran supporter. Big love to Christine Cash. But last week she pops into the chat and I was saying something about, if you love the show, if you've enjoyed the paper reviews that I do like most mornings, do consider joining the Patreon. It starts at only £3 a month and blah, blah, blah. I'm doing my usual spiel. Setting out my stall is what I'm doing. And in comes Christine. Decimating all of the negativity and lack of optimism that I've worked so hard to sow and weave into the show. In she comes with her bloody positivity and giving. And she literally gifted 5 people in the chat, each of them a membership to the show on YouTube Community, which is like YouTube's Patreon thing. So now 5 people have joined the community, which is fucking amazing, isn't it? So I've got a few newbies on there. Shall I say? I'll give you a quick shout out, shall I? Here we go. Bear with me a sec. Let me get your names up. Where are we? See my members. Oh, I haven't even put it on Chrome yet, have I? Here we go. Can you see that? There we go. What's up to Darth Mac? What's up to Matilda? What's up to LU2D Games? I remember chatting to you the other night in the live chat. Jim Speak, Joe Lefty. What's going on? I'm going to put a thing onto YouTube, right? You can put these posts on, and only the community members see them. And I'm going to put one of those on after I've recorded this, like tomorrow morning. I'll put one of those on with a Discord link in there. So if you have joined YouTube Community and you're not on the Discord yet, like you're not chatting with the rest of us, because I pop in there most days. Distract is in there. Yuri or Stu, he's in there every day. Richard Marsden, what's up, Rich, if you're watching or listening? But a bunch of us are in there, like most days, trying to make sense of the senseless together as our people of the Booge cult. So if you're on YouTube's community or if you've joined Patreon recently and you've not joined the Discord chat, do give me a nudge. I'll give you the link for it. Right, what was I talking about? I was going to do a positive news story, wasn't I? All right, let's do it, shall we? So this is on Sky News. I say positive news, right? This is something so darkly funny. And again, on brand for this show. There's something so darkly funny about, we've come from talking about racism, xenophobia, hate, riots, the unfairness, the darkness of the modern, formerly United Kingdom, all of that stuff. And I'm like, let's have an uplifting story. And the uplifting story is like, human hand found on beach. It's like, that's how you know we're really fucked in this country, isn't it? Is when a story about a severed human hand found on a beach with police going like, whoa, hold on, this is grisly. That is the uplifting, happy news story we're like rounding off with. But anyway, this is Sky News. Human hand found on beach sparks police response. But all is not as it seems, guys. The plot thickens. There's a twist to this. What do we think the twist is? It wasn't real. It wasn't a real human hand. It was a gorilla's hand. It was, I don't know. Suggestions in the live chat, please. Whose hand do we think it is? Lord Lucan's. They found Lord Lucan, a remnant of Lord Lucan's hand. It's washed away from the Titanic. I don't know. South Wales police received a report that a human hand or foot had been found on Llangennith Beach on the Gower Peninsula. How do you not know if it's a hand or foot? Reports that a human hand or foot could be either, guys. A human hand. What kind of fucked up, weird mutant policeman or dog walker, could have been a dog walker, right? What kind of fucked up human mutant found that and then went, yeah, it could be this one or this one? Like, it's like, what do your hand and feet look like for you to get confused between the two? Anyway, so they found it on Llangennith Beach on the Gower Peninsula. I mean, that is a bad... What was I saying on the midweek show, right? I was saying about the differences of, like, what you can find on a Florida beach versus what you find on a British beach. Like, Florida, Miami, you find, like, washed up packages upon packages of pure cocaine. And then you go for a walk on a British beach and you find like a nappy and your hangover poo from like the last time that blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. If you watch the midweek show, you know, that was the observation. That was the comedic thing I was doing. And now here we are. You know, a couple of days later, Sky News are just banging on my door going like, ha, you know, you were talking about British beaches. Well, forget about nappies and hangover poos. Wait till you get a lot of this shit. Just another day on Britain's award-winning beaches, guys. Do we think if it's found by like a metal detector guy? Because that would be traumatizing, wouldn't it? Imagine you thought you were going to find some buried treasure or like a Roman ring. Or so, oh, this is going to pay off my mortgage. Like, whoa, what's this? Oh, I found something. Fucking human hand/foot, a hoot is what it is, or a fan. Anyway, I suppose we should actually read the story, shouldn't we? It says Gareth Richards with a police officer at Llangennith Beach in South Wales. A human hand discovered on a beach near Swansea sparked an emergency police response, but all was not as it seemed. Here comes that twist again, guys. Prepare yourselves. It says, while on patrol at Rossilli on the Gower, officers were called by members of the Coast Guard to Llangennith Beach. I'm having real trouble pronouncing this, Sky News. If we could just drop that one word. Can we just say the beach, please? South Wales Police posted on Facebook that officers had received a report of a human foot/hand that had been found on the beach. There we go, just the beach. Thank you. The force said the area in question is known for having parts of dead seals or other marine animals washed up. It can be difficult for members of the public to tell the difference between human and seal bones, as seals also have 5 fingers and toes, it said. Do seals have 5 fingers and toes? Why did I not know that? 5 fingers and toes. Let's have a look, shall we? Seal hands. Do they actually look? They fucking do, don't they? Look at that. Look at that shit. This is when I realised that a seal would probably win an arm wrestle with me. Anyway, let's continue, shall we? Gareth Richards, who runs the Gower Seal Group, that is a heroic group name, like to be. If you were telling girls in a bar what you did, what your job was, or hobby. I mean, let's assume it's a hobby, right? Like, if the Royal Lifeguard don't get money, if they're still a charity, I don't know if the fucking Gower Seal Group, like, employing people. But anyway, if you're in a bar, you know, on the coast as well, there's women down there for hen nights and, you know, nights out with the girls. They ask you what you do. And you're like, my name's Gareth. And I'm leader of the Gower Seals. Like, that sounds like naval and military, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm part of the Gower Seals, love. I lead them. I lead the Gower Seals. And then they find out you just fuck around looking for seal hands on a beach. Like, that's what you do? That is the opposite of, that is, before you were turning me on, I was all kinds of excited. I am literally, it's like somebody threw a bucket of sand down there. I'm not in the mood at all. Thank you, Gareth. On your way. Your fucking metal detector. Anyway, Gower SEAL Group, Gareth Richards. He happened to be walking past at the time and officers asked him for help. It took 4 hours for the officers and Mr. Richards to track down the remains before they could be identified as part of a SEAL. So it is part of a SEAL. That's the twist. Is it? Is it this motherfucker is part of a SEAL group and he's brought in 5 feet? Could be a hand or a foot, and then it just turns out to be a fucking SEAL again. Great. How is this even a story? He told Sky News a member of the public had taken photographs of what they believed to be a human hand sticking out of the sand. They took photos and they sent the photos to the emergency services, but it's very difficult to be able to interpret the photograph, and it did look a little bit suspicious, he told Sky News. Of course, you can't actually beat going to the scene and taking a quick look myself, he says. The seal was about a year old and had been scavenged by birds, according to Mr. Richards. I double-checked with the police first if it was okay to touch because it could potentially be a crime scene, it says, and they were quite happy for me to examine it a bit further. Well, whoop-de-fucking-do, Gareth, all right? It's probably the most exciting day for the Gower SEALs that had ever been. But at least now he's got something to tell the girl in the bar. I lead the Gower SEALs. Oh my God, that sounds exciting. Have you ever rescued anyone? Have you ever gone in somewhere with guns and harpoons and no, it's SEAL patrol, basically. Oh, right. Okay, so you just love seals, do you? Yeah, but wait until I tell you about the time I found a human hand. Oh my God, that is exciting. Now at least Gareth has one good story, right? Even if fucking Sky News don't. I don't know, man. So, anyway, how do we think this riot stuff is gonna shake out? Well, where's our heads at? Where do we think this is heading, guys? Because, I mean, I don't know if you would have seen it by now. I did do a video and it's sort of half edited, but it'll be out by the time that this one comes out. So I have already done a video where I talk about what I think, where this is heading in terms of, societal collapse. That's where I think we're heading. Careering towards uncontrollably, like some sort of, runaway locomotive train of Tom Cuntery. But where do you guys think it's heading? Because it's scary times, right? It's sort of, basically any time in history where large groups of angry English men appear and congregate. Any time that you've seen that in history never ends well. If you see, I was saying this to a friend of mine the other day. I was like, if you see a large group of angry English men arriving or congregating or coalescing around, you should just leave. Just go somewhere else. It's not good news. If it's a lot of angry men after a football game, they tear shit up, they cause fights, somebody ends up in hospital. If it's a load of bankers who have just been made redundant, they all go to the strip bar and get into fights. If it's a load of racists, if it's a load, large groups of angry English men, never good news. In fact, just large groups of men in general. We're always awful, aren't we? When we get was it an episode of the podcast recently? Or was it, maybe it was on a pay-per-view. I can never remember what I've talked about and when and for how long or whatever, but it was on something recently. I was saying, whenever you get large groups of men together, whether it is investment bankers or Premiership footballers or, whatever, wherever you get large groups of men, inevitably they egg each other on. There is this sort of bravado element to it where they try to one-up each other, and the alpha male eggs them all on even more, and men are celebrated for the machismo and all the rest of it, and it never ends well, does it? And sometimes men get aggrieved by that, don't they? They're like, oh, don't box me up with all the other men, not all men, all of that. And I always think, you're right, okay, it is not all men. But it is a fucking lot of men. Police is another example. Even the police, who are supposed to protect you, protect women, even they, when you get a big group of men together in the WhatsApp group, like the one that the guy that murdered Sarah Everard, Wayne Cousins, he was in a WhatsApp group with a load of other men. They egg each other on, right? So police, Premiership footballers, athletes, male athletes in general, investment bankers, whatever it is, large groups of men, and even small groups of men. Or even just men, you know. Even just men can be awful. Until we recognise and agree to address that it is something about men rather than the environment that contains a particular group of men, i.e. the bank, the football club, the police force. It is until we accept that and agree to address it, then the same thing will continue to happen again and again and again. But you know what? Some places they do try to address it in their own way. Here is a story from NBC, one of my favourite networks to go to for weird and wonderful news stories, stateside. Don't know if you guys have seen this or heard about it. It says, an airline now allows women to avoid sitting next to men. And here is how travellers are reacting. Can you imagine? Just take a second to predict what reactions you get from men for this, to this. How do you think men have definitely responded to this? I mean, do we even need to read the article, or should we just assume rightly how men are going to respond to it and then just roast the fuck out of them? Is that what we should do? Is that how we should spend the last 15 minutes of the show? Is just assume and then rip the shit out of them? Fuck it, let's get into it, shall we? Shall I make it a bit bigger so you guys can read along? Here we go. It says, India's biggest budget airline, Indigo, has been trialling a booking feature that will allow women to avoid booking a seat next to men on flights. The feature, the first of its kind for an airline, works by showing female travelers a pink seat at the seat selection page if it will be occupied by a female passenger. A company representative told CNBC Travel. Male travelers, however, will not see this information. Travelers on Indigo must identify their genders when they purchase tickets. You just know that J.K. Rowling is going to pipe up with some insufferable, tedious as fuck thing about, oh, what if I say that I'm a man? Oh, God. Just give yourself a day off. It says, the carrier began rolling out the service in May on a pilot basis. Oh, pilot, ha ha! Good one, CNBC. That is, I mean, you know, I ripped the shit out of the Sun for their middle tier wordplay. That is top tier, comfortably top tier. And I love the fact it wasn't like italicized or like underlined, like to exactly like to hit you around the head with it. It's just there, allowing the smart people to pick up on it. Or maybe it's just an accident and I read too deeply into it. Could be that too. Rolled out on a pilot basis in May and is available on all flights. However, Indigo's website and mobile app did not show the feature when we did a check. The new feature has received positive individual reactions. Technology is now enabling some things which were not able in the past. We brought the initiative up as a test. It's responded very well with our customers, but also internationally. Okay, now we get into the interesting bit. Why do women want to avoid sitting next to men? It asks. A representative told CNBC Travel that the new feature is designed to make flying more comfortable for our female passengers. Here we go. Many users on social media platforms X and Reddit commended Indigo, saying it's good news after having bad experiences when traveling alone. They said they're glad it's available, citing personal experiences of being touched on flights. Doesn't even surprise me. I mean, I was pretty shocked when a girl told me once, she was like, most women you know will have been touched at some point by a man completely unsolicited on public transport. I was like, really? Like, here's me just dancing around in my cotton wool what's the word? Privilege bubble, right? Like, just bliss in my existence. Just, that sounds terrible. How come I've never heard of this? There's a comment on Reddit now that they put up. It says, yeah, it's basically an acknowledgement of how widespread it is for men to be creepy everywhere. It's embarrassing. Another person says, I travel alone and my experience was terrible last time. Others complained men sit with their legs apart, making female neighbours uncomfortable. I mean, yeah. I am somewhat like, I don't know if cynical's the right word about that, but I am like, that's how we sit. Like, I don't agree with this whole, like, you need to advertise your junk. You sit on a bus or like a thing in the centre of the train, like the underground carriage, and you're literally like, I don't know if that's necessary. But you do, as a man, you do like to sit with your legs apart. That's just how it is, all right? Some comments called the booking feature discriminatory and sexist. Some also asked the airline how the airline would manage cases of men identifying as women. There you go. Never late, that train, is it? But yeah, what do you guys make of it? Is it a step forward? Does it... I mean, my own personal feeling about this is that women should be allowed to feel safe on a plane ticket that's probably cost them like £1,000 or something, right? Women shouldn't have to feel sexually or physically vulnerable on a flight because they happen to be sat next to a guy, right? That's the base level there. Boilerplate. Now, if the way that you make them feel safe is by giving them a thing so they can sit next to other women, other female passengers, or like maybe you could say like, this is a family of 4 here. Would you like to sit next to the family of 4? Because then it's like a family. Like I wouldn't imagine you would feel that threatened next to a husband and wife and their 2 kids or whatever. Maybe you hate kids and that's fine too. But I do think like the boilerplate should be let women feel safe. And then after that, let's have a conversation about how fragile many, many men feel. But I'm not a creep. I don't just sit down and start molesting women on a plane. No, you don't. But you have to understand that most women out there have experienced something absolutely fucking horrendous. Usually in a public environment like that, where they feel powerless and they're locked in and they don't want to cause a commotion in case the guy gets really violent. So they just have to sit there and they really don't like it, Dave. So anything that we can do to avoid that from happening. And then after that, let's talk about your thoughts and feelings, Dave. Other incidents, it says, involve male passengers who touch women on flights. On an Indigo flight from Mumbai to Guwahati, I hope I'm saying that right, I'm definitely not, a male passenger lifted the armrest between him and a female passenger and touched her inappropriately while she was asleep, according to the Indian news outlet. In 2019, a 39... Like, here's the thing that I always go back to, right? Whenever somebody says... Oh, well, you don't have to be scared of me. Like, but I don't do that. And I can't help it if you feel intimidated by me. But you don't have to be scared about me. Like, whenever anybody says stuff like that, right? I always go back to this quote or this question that I heard one time. And it was a sort of male feminist type. And I don't think I was taking it particularly seriously at the time. But this particular quote always stuck with me. I think it was a comedian, actually. And he said, if you don't think that women should feel intimidated by you and that is women's fault or responsibility, they just need to get over it. Here's what you should do. You should lock yourself in a prison cell with a big fucking muscly motherfucker with tattoos twice the size of you, and have him look you up and down like a piece of meat, and then just see how you feel. See how vulnerable you feel in that moment. And then tell yourself, he probably doesn't want to hurt you. He's probably not even thinking of you like that. So really, it's up to you, and you just need to get over it. Whenever you hear a guy say something like that, you should imagine yourself saying it or thinking it to yourself when you're in a prison cell with a guy twice your size. That was basically the gist of the bit, the comedic bit that I'm now completely butchering, as I remember it. I mean, it's a weird sort of thing, isn't it? It's quite sad that they need to bother to offer a feature like that. It's such an indictment of the time that we're alive that we still have to worry about who you might be sitting next to. Even though there's like air marshals with guns, tasers, you know, securing equipment or whatever. Even in these days of like flight safe, like since 9/11, obviously flying safety has been a huge thing. And yet even now, still now, women are like, actually, if I could just choose to not be sat next to a random man for like 8 hours, that would be, why is that? I don't understand why you're being so unreasonable and insulting to all men. Like, it's sad, isn't it, that we're still there? But, you know, I suppose we should applaud the Indian Airline for offering such a feature and trying to keep women safe. It's a bit weird, isn't it? A little bit weird. I'm going to sound a little bit chunty now when I say this, but it's slightly weird that an Indian airline is taking women's safety so seriously, and yet on something way simpler, like a public bus in India. I don't know how much you've read about what has happened on buses in India to women, but it's not pretty. It's really not good. So there's a part of me that's a bit like, okay, you're doing the right thing, India. I'm feeling it. It's good. I like where we're headed. But like baby steps. Make the buses safe first. Okay. Otherwise, we're all going to be spending £1,000 for a fucking 3-day rental of a motorhome and just drive ourselves around. Right, anyway, guys, I better call it a night. I've got to go and check on the kids and all the rest of the stuff that I normally do when I come off here. Thank you so much for continuing to support the show. If you're not on the Patreon or YouTube's community yet, do consider jumping on. As I mentioned earlier, it starts at only £3 a month, goes up to like 5 and then 10, and you can even join the 50 if you like. There's a £50 tier, which sounds borderline insulting, doesn't it? Will you pay me £50 to do this shit? But it is there. If you decided that you really love the show, that tier is there for you. Next meetup for the Patreons and the community backers will be in about 3 months' time. Going to try and do a big thing in London, but combine it with Graham Hughes of Politics Social. Although I haven't actually really talked to him about that yet, so it's weird that I've told you guys first. He could just tell me to piss off. He'd be like, I'm not doing that with you. And then I would have embarrassed myself. More so. But yeah, so that'll be the next meetup. That's about it, I guess. Take care of yourselves. Stick around for Politics Social, because that's on at 9 o'clock. And by my count now, it should be about sort of, 8:30ish on Friday night. So yeah, stick around for that. Tell Graham I said hi. Tell him that you came over from me, because that always helps. A bit of word of mouth. And I will catch up with all of you for a midweek show next week. All right, keep yourself safe, keep it booge, keep it binfluencer, and we are out this motherfucker.